Hey guys, Vlad here. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about my experience in going through Techstars, one of the best venture capital backers in the world, along with YC, of course, for pre-seed and seed stage startups. Before that, I was a bit in finance, worked for a couple of banks, and wanted to tell you a little bit about my experience getting out of a startup and moving into what's next, because I think that's on a lot of people's mind. Once you do a startup or you move on through a startup, you've created a business, what's next for you. Now, I was quite surprised at really the kind of difficulty of getting into VC. Getting into VC is difficult anyway. However, I think having had a lot of front end experience in building a company that's been backed by top tier VCs, you're expecting obviously a lot of interest. You're also expecting tier one companies, tech companies like Google, like Facebook, and others to be interested in hiring you. However, that wasn't the case. That's not the case. Um, Top tier tech companies do hire a lot of MBAs, a lot of Harvard MBAs, Stanford MBAs. Um, if you have built a startup or not, I'm not sure that really interests them. In fact, it probably doesn't. It's probably a negative point. Now, this is something very interesting. I think once you've gained enough experience, potentially for larger corporates, you could become a bit more detrimental, and so they may not be as interested in you as you think they may be. So this is an interesting point that I came across while having left a startup, being COO and stuff like that, and then looking to what's next. What should you do next? Should you be investing in earlier stage startups? Should you be working with founders? Should you go to venture capital? But if you look at a lot of tier one VCs CVs, a lot of them actually don't have direct startup experience. The One of the best pre-seed and seed VCs like YC, Y Combinator, do. They have a lot of multi-million dollar and billion-dollar exited startup founders, and they're considered to be one of the best. And that's probably for a reason. There's probably a reason why YC is one of the best. Probably understand founders a little bit more than others, especially at early stage venture investing. It's very difficult to think about the reasons. But if you do look at the CVs for let's say any kind of tier one other venture investors, you will see a lot of consultants, and of course tier one schools. However, I do believe it is one of the best jobs out there, for any, for example, MBA looking to getting to work. And the reason is that you're not taking the risk of being a startup founder. However, you're getting the a nice salary on top of the carry of the company you're going to invest in. So essentially, if you're looking for all in risk, you want to go and work for a startup. However, if you want to take a little bit less risk and you're going to be paid and you can get potential carry of an early stage business which exits, nothing beats VC, and working as a let's say investment associate or partner for a VC. So you know, generally speaking, having gone through the difficulties of how hard it is to actually build a company, I would recommend anyone that's starting out, anyone that's looking to start a business or start a company, to actually look at getting a job first, understanding what it takes, and then potentially um, going into starting a business, because the risks are so high. It's so hard to build a business. I think I know a lot of founders. A lot of them get lucky, and I think you realize that once you've gone through the process of building a company, just what it takes. and how lucky you need to be to actually build a business and then actually exit, or make sure that the shares that you've gotten in the business are worth something and that you could exit. You won't be paid a massive salary while you're growing business, even at Series A, Series B levels. You'll be paid a pretty average salary, but of course, the wealth generation is within the equity, within the shares. So again, it's so risky that I would more recommend you getting a job in VC, because you are getting the cushion of a salary, and then you're getting on top of that the carry. There's a lot of people out there that I know that would never take the risk, or a lot that have gone back into work, the risk of actually going ahead and building a startup. And I understand, understandably so. The risks are so high that as I said, it's easier to work. However, there are benefits which attract founders and the big risk takers, and of course the rewards of a big exit are a lot higher, right? So there's a couple of points here I wanted to make, but this is something that I didn't know, of course, once I had left the startup, is that what awaits you, right? What's the next step? What kind of company is going to be interested in you? And there's no real answer to this question, but I was surprised that the tier one, for example, tech companies, not really being interested. They more wanted someone who climbed the corporate ladder, because a lot of these, or even startups, for example, the Ubers and so forth, who are call themselves startups, although they're multi-billion dollar companies, not being that interested, or interested, but in a particular aspect. But you would have thought, everyone would want to jump on you because you have, been through the process of being an entrepreneur, being backed by top tier VC. So the roots, I'd say, for an entrepreneur are quite messy, and you have to know that when you start. And but the point is not to give up hope, and I think there's always a way for any entrepreneur that's been through the process of building a company, that really understands what it takes. And it really, really is an important process. But I cannot underestimate the difficulty of building a company, getting supported, getting the right team, the right funding, the right backers, getting the right advisors, growing the business, and then, of course, exiting, because it is extremely, extremely difficult. So feel free to reach out to me for any more questions. Thanks.